You have an event, but how do you reach your audience? How do you attract them to come to your event? And we're moving to a session now that I'm actually particularly interested in, given my broadcasting experience, because I know when I had a story to tell, I needed to know my audience, how to attract it, what was my brand, and what is your brand? Is it the best that can attract someone to your event, can attract that audience? How do you make your event look and feel as professional as possible? How do you reach the audiences beyond Northern Ireland? Well, Stephan Moore is going to give us a masterclass in exactly that. Stephan is a creative director of Co5, an independent creative agency based in Belfast, but has a global focus. And after his presentation, we'll ask you to collaborate at your tables to identify key challenges in regard to branding and takeaways and actions. But before I ask you to do that, please welcome to the stage Stephan Moore. There you go.
Good morning, everyone. Yeah, a masterclass in 20 minutes is a bit of a sets the bar high. I like it. Yes, happy to talk to everyone today. My name's Stephan. I have been involved in this world for over 30 years and don't take any pleasure in saying. And I was just thinking, Carmel and I actually used to be colleagues, and one of the things that I noticed this morning, Carmel used to always have to talk to clients with all the meaty stuff, all the main data, and I would get to come across and do all the slightly creative, arty things. And I just think to myself, some things never change, despite the 30 years. But that's part of what I want to do. I really want to try and just have fun expanding our minds a little bit about how we think about branding and what matters to us. I'm going to try and do the following 3 or 5 things. I want to establish, first of all, a little bit of credibility in the event space, so you maybe believe what I'm saying a little bit more. But really, in the meat of it, it's discuss why brand really matters, actually to everyone in this room. I come across a lot of people who go, well, branding's that thing, and don't really get into brands. Brands aren't, so it's all kind of ethereal and nonsense. Actually, I want to try and get you to think about that a lot differently. And then I want to try and talk about good practice and what good practice benchmarks mean right now, and what I will be kind of unapologetically challenging in that regard, and show how we can maybe move from good, or in this part of the world, that horrible phrase we have, that will do rightly, how we move from good enough to great, because that's the challenge I think we all face, and then we're going to have time to chat. Okay, so like a plan? Yeah, just a little bit of credibility. Again, don't take any pleasure in saying I've been involved a long time. I have been involved, and someone just came up to me at the break, Leslie, and we did an event together in St Anne's Cathedral around 1998, 1999, and that's when that first logo, Millennium Products, was a thing, and working for the Design Council and Design Director here in Northern Ireland. So I go back to doing events in that regard. I was involved in Institute of Designers in Ireland, bringing the design awards to Belfast around the early 2000s. I got lucky enough to work with the Tourist Board and big things like Our Time, Our Place, G8 Summit in Enniskillen. Do you remember that? The Giro was, I think if we had made a campaign to try and turn our colour of Northern Ireland pink, we might have got away with it back then. There's pink cows in fields, do you remember? It was just pink everywhere. We were really onto the pink at that stage. Food and drink, even Our Story in the Making, the Centenary brand, and then a range of things from Taste of Ulster, the MAC opening, Ulster Museum, new campus, Ulster Museum when I went down the road, Grand Central opening, Letterkenny over COVID, and then we're continually working with clients in that bottom row, likes of Scalette Summit, which has happened 2 years in a row, 2003, 2004. We do a lot of work with Royal Palaces in London, Kensington, Tower. I have been consulting with the Kerry Group for now 12 years. I'm currently working on a project with them in Dubai for a thing called Kerry World. And we are just delivered an event for Mayor Brown, a legal firm out of New York at the end of January. So again, showing that from this part of the world we can do things not just here, but elsewhere. Okay, so let's talk about brand, my favorite subject, and understand why it matters to everyone. Don't really have the time, but I would have got you to draw from memory, the logo of a very famous brand, Starbucks. And if potentially then show you against a little image like this, because you can't quite remember, can you? You can remember parts of it, but you don't remember all of it. But that doesn't matter. If I was to ask you, though, about what Starbucks means to you or what sticks about Starbucks, you would have a whole different conversation. So let's hit this one straight off the bat. Logo is just the tip of an iceberg, but don't forget about the iceberg. Remember, it's a carrier for something else. And so the logo matters, but it is not branding. Let me explain that a different way. Is this branding? Very much it is branding. This is about these shapes and this culture that can create those shapes, and that architecture carries with it power, influence, education, a whole range of things, doesn't it? It's incredible, but still carries today. We still can't figure out how it was done, and therefore it carries with it meaning. Inside those pyramids, there was images like this. And if you look carefully, you can see here oxen lying on the ground with their feet tied, and people actually branding them, very much like we do today. And this is one of the sources of branding, of course, in our world, is the branded cattle, the branded sheep. Now, I want you to think of that like your company or your corporate logo applied to your hat or to your polo top or to your pop-ups. That still happens today. But what does that mean? That's ownership, isn't it? That's our stuff. That's my sheep in the field of sheep. That's our brand in the field of logos. Or the side of your van as it's driving up the road. It's a very important part of branding, but it's not the branding that I think you really need to focus in on. Branding is much different than that. Do you know the Parthenon here in Greek times was actually an event space? It's where people came to celebrate wealth and prosperity and give offerings to the gods. But actually what they were also doing is putting all their wealth into the vaults that were high in this mountain and this deep, and it became essentially a bank and the banking system. Isn't it ironic how banks still look a bit like that today? Yeah. So architecture's branding, the physical activity of joining together and how that works for a community is part of what branding means. Next example of that, the battle standard. Much more actually useful reference to the source of branding. Now, you would have had it on your school blazer. Do you remember that little bit of Latin and some sort of symbol? Harry Potter and the houses have it. But the battle standard essentially says, we are prepared to stand for this, stand behind this, and actually go into battle because we have a belief system that we believe. It still happens today. It's happening right now, as we all know. People will go into battle for what they believe in and what that stands for. So when you're thinking about your brand, what is it you stand for? And what is it actually sometimes you stand against? What are you not, as much as what are you for? Really think deeply about those sort of things and get away from this. The logo is going to be important. All that's important, of course, but go deeper. Understand what it is you're doing. That's what I want to keep talking to you about. Because from the very start of Homo sapiens, we have developed a DNA which allows us not to be able to separate when we want to communicate from also, we can't help ourselves from but build image. These are the earliest coins they found, Lydian lions. On one side, it references some sort of value, but on the other side, there was a lion's head, if you can see it there on the left-hand side. We cannot stop, can never separate out, communicate information, at the same time building image, and that's a critical aspect to what we're doing when we're branding. Even if you tell me, do you know what, I don't believe in any of that stuff, Stephen, it doesn't matter, I just debrand. Well, I'm sorry, but that's still branding. You're still creating an image of what you want to be, which is nothing. I was in a speakeasy in Liverpool at the weekend. I don't know if you've been to it or not, but it's literally no branding. It's a black shop front, black door, black windows. There's no sign of what the place is called whatsoever. And when you open the door, you press it, you knock on the door, they bring you in, it's thriving. Debranded, but still, of course, branding. You can't escape it. Why is it? This DNA thing, it's in us. We humanize everything. We humanize objects, clouds in the sky. We humanize the cave hill, the source of the sleeping giant. If you look on the side, we see patterns. We try to figure out, how that relates to us as humans. We humanize storms because actually we has more impact on us. Even the hardest financial markets who, again, we don't really get into that. Of course we do. Even humanized markets. How can a global market roar? It can't roar. We use analogies to help us navigate the world around us. Because when we humanize something, we trust it that little bit more. When we humanize something, we are influenced it a little bit more. You don't have to look any further than the church and religion for how we humanize gods and then become more influenced by them. We feel like we're letting people down and so forth. And to humanize something, we care more about it. This is another part of our DNA, which is actually kind of special to us. Not only did we learn how to communicate together and get together in groups and solve problems, but we also learned how to empathize. And the whole core of branding is about empathy. It's about, we don't know what it's like to be a cat or a caterpillar, but we're very, very good at pretending that we are. And when it comes to brands, that's why we have brands, and actually, I may never thought of this before, but why we have brand values and brand behaviors. We are trying to make a brand like a human being. Your organization, your event, needs to translate itself into what it's like a real human being. Because that helps all your audiences understand it better, know whether they want to be its friend or not, whether they want to be associated with it or not, whether they want to engage in it or not. So that's what branding is about. It's about building this sort of human characteristics that allows you to sort of share that with the audience. Paul Smith happens to be one of the brands that I like, and I'll not tell you where I'm wearing them right now, but one of my brands of choice. But we have them everywhere, and as I'm going to go into a little bit more, there are friends through life, if you think of it that way. So think about the events that you run, or the events that you might appreciate, or the brands that surround you, whether it's your car, whether it's the shoes you wear, it doesn't matter. They're all there, and they're actually your friends to help you navigate through life. Start changing your view on them. Good brands inspire people to keep buying from them year after year. Build partners around that shared ethos, because you stand for an ethos and not just a logo. You'll build partners. It encourages investors because they know you for the long term and they can get a read on you for the long term. Draw attention to the media, engagement with the public, attract and motivate talent, and they also diminish business risks whenever you build a strong brand. Brands are not a logo, but a feeling. So how do you build the brand? How do you build that feeling? Well, it begins with words. These are the words from JFK's speech, which led to the moonshot and how we think about visions and how do we set a goal in the future and work to. Still used today. This is Russell Reeves, a brilliantly named ad man in 1961, but he was the guy who coined the USP, unique selling proposition, and a classic example there of M&Ms, melt in your mouth, not in your hand. What can you say that others can't? That's still a valid point of view right now. If you can find a proposition that you can say that others can't, do it. These guys came along in 1970 and developed the notion around positioning. And positioning is also another important thing for you to keep in mind. Because in a lot of markets, in a lot of sectors, you find you're there with lots of other people doing the same thing. And sometimes the only thing that separates you is the position you take versus them. So for instance, famously, Avis, we try harder. It's rental cars. But they just took an attitude, a behavior, which was, well, yeah, we're in the rental car market, but we just try that bit harder. And by taking that stand, that position, is enough to separate them from the rest. Think about Specsavers. Again, thriving in an area of complete commodity because they've just taken an attitude to that we all know and understand. This book, if you're looking for a book reference to me, this one, 1994, From Good to Great, looked at nearly 1,500 companies and why they were performing. And their core, the reason was they had a core ideology. Define your company in terms of what it stands for rather than what it happens to make. Define your event in terms of what it stands for. Can you do that? That led on to Simon Sinek and the power of why, but it's the same thing. The more clearly you can articulate what you stand for and why you exist, the greater power to imagine all the activities you can do in pursuit of that. Start thinking that way. And there's a lot of noise in my sector around, should it be a mission statement or a manifesto or a brand purpose statement or whatever. Do you know what? It doesn't really matter. Relax about all of that. There's different ways of doing it. The important thing is find it, get to a key sentence. And actually, you can start off like the New Yorker here. 1924, they wrote a prospectus. I think it was about 16 pages. See that second paragraph? As compared to the newspaper, the New Yorker will be interpretive rather than stenographic. It will print facts that we'll have to go behind the scenes to get, but it will not deal in scandal for the sake of scandal, nor sensation for the sake of sensation. That's still written in 1924, resonates today, doesn't it? And then if you look at, they break it into a paragraph, bring it into a sentence, bring it into a one-liner, bring it into one word. Can you do that? Do you know your brand that well that you can have those layers so you can really shortcut to what it actually is about? That's important if you can do it. So figure out what's the right way to express what you stand for. The level of your ambition is also a thing. And don't be dull, is my also big advice. Language is a great thing. Don't fight against the corporacy of just saying like everyone else does. Find a way to do it. Little example from the world of events. Their organizing principle is spread ideas. 2 words brings in people, says what they're doing, and nails why they're different. Think about how you do it. Sorry for all the marketing people in this world, but this is not meant to be a put down in marketing. In fact, no one's going to say yes to it yet if they don't get asked in the first place. These things work hand in hand. But think about what this means. One is about trying to invite and to provide information and get to. But branding actually is the reason why you might, what you think and what you feel deep down is the reason why you might commit to coming to that event. So think about them in 2 halves. They're shared. So let's say you found your thing, right? Let's assume that. Maybe that's something we do as a group activity. How do you get people to care? How do you get the people to say yes? This is my favorite diagram. 20 years, 25 years old, this book, Kevin Roberts' Love Marks. Respect, low respect, high respect, low love, high love. If you're high love and low respect, you're a fad. If you're low love, low respect, you're a product, you're a commodity, you're milk, you're bread. You will not pay more than a penny difference. You don't care what the brand says. Low love, high respect, you're possibly what we would call a brand. In there you find utility companies. So I respect that they give me my electricity, but do I love them for doing it? Not so sure. The banks are all in that space, and the banks really struggle. You know, when the banks want to be your friend, and you're like, just be a bank. I don't want you to be my friend. They want to move. But actually, some banks have managed to do it. Monzo, Revolut, find ways to get to that right-hand corner, because that's obviously the holy grail, the love marks. Donna is a love mark. Respected for what you do and loved for how you do it.
That was a love bite you said there.
You see, it can be anything in that top right-hand corner. It can be Harley Davidson. It can be Tato, cheese, and onion. It's relevant to you and your market. But do they respect what it is you're giving them, the quality of what you give them, but also love you for how you do it, for how you go about doing it? Breathe more love into what you're doing, more storytelling. In fact, everything on the left goes to everything on the right. How do you go from being essentially bland and corporate and maybe the right things, but actually start to imbue more to it than that? Build emotion is how you start to get people to want to find you out. It's how you build a brand which is going to be over 3 years, 4 years, just keep building and building and building, not a one and done. Now, I'm go back to my previous chart. There's nothing wrong with being a fad, by the way. I mean, a 10-year anniversary, a 40-year anniversary is a fad, a one-off special event. Some brands like KFC and quick chain restaurants use every 2 weeks, limited time offers to get people come back. So nothing wrong with anything in that quarter, but I'd imagine you all want to build and build into that top right, creating love stories. So let's get some things straight. I'm going to go fast now, really fast. So I've had to dump a lot of my nice creative slides and just go to lists just to get through it. Everyone can tell good from bad. In design, photography, copy, video, tone, ideas. I don't have the time to prove it to you, but you possibly think, well, sure, that's okay, that's all right, isn't it? That's professional enough. You can't think that way. You can't think that way. You need to search out who's the best in your world, in your industry, look at what best means, and in this part of the world in Northern Ireland, we should be doing it as good as anyone. Be proud of where we stand and where we stand from, and teach the world what we can do with our events and with our brands and how we communicate stories. We are brilliant storytellers. We're brilliant communicators. Use it. And this notion that people can't tell the difference, that's nonsense. My wife walked into a cafe in Liverpool and refused to eat because she could sense there was a musty smell. We're brilliant at deciding what's good and what's bad. If I was to have 2 carrier bags here, and in one the logo was really big and garish, and the other one was really small and tiny and maybe just embossed, you would know one might be carrying things worth £100 more just by looking at it. You could pick it out. Any of you could pick it out. So, encourage you to look at the craft and what you're doing. Photography, you cannot get away with photography or videography in ways you might have done before. And it's much more accessible. You can shoot a TV ad on this. You can, as Carmen was saying, use others, come in, influencers, find the ways to do it. But I'm telling you, the benchmark needs to rise and all those things. Here's a company in Spain, on the islands in Spain. Where you're from means everything and nothing. Here's campers. I'm wearing them today, one of my Love Mark brands. They look at the art direction in some of those things, between their product and the people. It just requires thought and confidence. Here's one of my favorite ads from the time when, do you remember when Kentucky Fried Chicken ran out of chicken? How good, we understand what good ideas are, don't they? Anyone not look at that and not get the idea that they're saying sorry in a press ad for running out of chicken? But does the brand not get better because of how it handled that and has a good idea and how it used copy? Or for an event, no one in the right mind would come to Helsinki in November except you badass. Welcome. See how that works? Do you see how that works? Craft, detail, thought, creativity, but it's not out of reach, it's just a banner that says everything about what that brand stands for and what it stands against. Everyone can sense when something is off, my next point. When something isn't authentic or true, we can smell it out. So be true, be authentic. See if you are struggling with, event photography, or the question that came from, that gentleman there about being one person. That's sometimes what people are looking for. Lean into that. Make that the thing. So don't try to be the bigger thing that you aren't. Be proud to be that one person, and you'll meet me. You'll see me, and turn that on its head. That's how you deal with that. When something's inconsistent and confusion, we do not like as human beings. See, when we can't read that, we don't like it. We can't settle ourselves. I can't settle myself because there's still a Hilton thing on this hotel when I came in, but also it's Kingfisher, and I don't know who Kingfisher is, and I'm still, what's the link there? Do you see him getting that? So remove all those inconsistencies. Don't be schizophrenic. Sometimes it's easy to see where it's all wrong. These are extreme examples. When truth, in looking back, when's too soon? Not soon enough, it says in the first line of that thing. Or look at that. Does not give you a visceral reaction to go, oh, no. These are real, by the way. Or even worse. Real ads. So truth is incredibly important. But think about how people actually build your understanding of your brand. Do not think that they take your event and they go, oh, I'll get a brochure on an event. I'll read the story from beginning to end. Like we read a book. That's not how people build brands. They build them more like this gentleman is saying. We might see a little social media post here. We might see a review there. We might have a friend who's been there before. All those things are breadcrumbs that lead back to the center. So what does that mean? You have to tell a story more like a Quentin Tarantino movie. All right? You have to be able to start anywhere and make sure it tells the same story, which then puts you onus on making sure all those little breadcrumbs are consistent, coherent, come from the same place, which is why you have to think about it to begin with, start with the words, get the story, understand it, make all decisions based on that. The lady who was chief executive of Just Eat said about a year ago, when asked what's the secret to the success they're having, consistency. She said it's three things: consistency. Just Eat. McCann, the company I used to work for, did the brand for this. Did somebody say 7 beats? When you translate that into 5 languages, it's still 7 beats. They really thought about that moment. And I don't have time to get into the moment that lies behind that, but that's an important story too. Everyone can understand a universal human emotion, and that's the secret to the wider audience. So, when you're trying to travel, when you're trying to take your brand outwards, when you really think about what's true to you, and think about how do you humanize that, go for an emotion that's true for human beings anywhere. When you get into that sort of space, and you find what that is, then that's what makes it open to as many people to join as possible. Like even when I was thinking, putting that logo on of the Giro, which I hadn't seen in a long time, I remember the strategy we thought about there. It was a tough enough brief. It's going to, people are going to go, stand there, and literally, I think, 60 seconds. So the challenge, I think the message we had there was be part of the start. Okay? That's what you're going to get. You're going to be part of something that's the start of something much bigger. What's the human trigger which is going to make that there? Find what that human emotion is. These guys, their one thing is always one emotion: happiness. Happiness through consistency. Coke anywhere in the world, when you see that brand, you know the experience you're going to get. And that's happiness. They believe in that so much that they changed Father Christmas from green to red. They own Christmas. Happiness. Happiness, happiness, happiness. Worked generations on this with you consistently, and that's how they work. I don't really have time, sure, Donna, I'm going. So I'll not play this ad, but Booking.com, do you remember this ad? That moment of the hero being the person who's booked at that moment and then gets the benefit of that understanding, that spirit, that doesn't need translated. Everyone understands that. I'll not do that one. Okay. You're probably paying for mediocrity. Try not to. It's a bit challenging, sorry, but so many people and clients I work with are already paying for websites and content and words and photography. You're certainly paying the time and the energy that's going into all of that. It just takes you to think about it, put the energy in, and figure out the story you're telling and do it right. Challenge your own behaviors in that regard. I'm going to bring all these up. This is my last 2 seconds. Right, so moving from good to great, be real by being true to yourself and what you stand for. Be human, less corporate, bring in more character, be more universal with that, and then you'll build more love. Be focused. Find your thing, that thing we're talking about, and stick to it over and over again. And remember that story from Just Eat? Consistency, consistency. Keep building. Doesn't mean you have to be less creative, just interpret new ways every time. Be meaningful. Look for the emotional transaction taking place. Know your audience and the role you play in their lives. So this is a guard against saying, see when you do this why thing, and you go, why do we do that? Why do we do it? And you end up saving the galaxy, don't you? Because you just keep going bigger and bigger and bigger. Keep it relative to what it is you do. What's meaningful about what you do, no matter how small or how big, that matters to people? How do you make a meaningful difference to them? See, if you focus on it, you will get something that people actually want. So keep it connected to that role you play. Think about it in those terms. Be engaging. Think beyond saying hello. So many of the brands I work with have a problem because they did the launch. They know how to say, we're here. They haven't thought about what they say after that. It's like going to a dinner party and going, hello, everybody. And then not say anything else. So when you're a brand, think about what is people are wanting you to say, or what conversations may develop, and see this. These last 2 lines: burn bright, let them find you. That's the sure way to deal with budgets. Don't try and do everything everywhere. Just burn bright around what you stand for, and you will draw your tribe to you. They will come to you if you burn bright around that. And that stands for, and how you use media, they will share it, they will come. Think through barriers, because there's not going to be that many, and then remove them. What's the reason why people won't come to your event or like your event or understand your event? What are those barriers? There won't be that many. There'll be less than what's in your hand. What's your strategy for dealing with it? And unlock those. I'm going to finish there, I think. Thank you very much.